What up, YouTube? This is Steven. Welcome back. Alright, so as you guys may or may not have heard, Donald Trump plans to pretty much phase out DACA. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with DACA, basically it is a program. Well, the DACA is kind of like an acronym, pretty much. It's like Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And this is about pretty much like immigrants who bring their children with them, but their children aren't citizens of the United States. So, because of that, their children are often raised in the United States, but when they come of age, like 18, trying to get into college, get into the workforce, the military, and all those things like that, like they can't really participate because they're not technically citizens. So this program came about because of Barack Obama. His administration came up with this program, right? And the program allows certain illegal immigrants who entered the country as minors to receive a renewable 2-year period of deferred action from deportation and eligibility for a work permit. Okay. The reason I bring this up is because I noticed that, when Donald Trump said pretty much he's going to be kind of like more or less phasing this program out, Barack Obama jumped up. Not literally, of course, but he came and he started speaking up about this program, and he had a couple of things to say about this program. And I want to kind of, go through this article that I found from CBSNews.com and, kind of like talk about some things too. All right. So Barack Obama, or rather, former President Obama condemned the Trump administration's decision to rescind a policy that enabled undocumented immigrants brought to the United States as children to remain here with temporary permits. Quote unquote, this is from Barack Obama, I think, quote unquote, let's be clear, the action taken today isn't required legally, the former president wrote in a Facebook post. Quote unquote, it's a political decision and a moral question. And here is another quote from Barack Obama. Whatever concerns or complaints Americans may have about immigration in general, we shouldn't threaten the future of this group of young people who are here through no fault of their own, who pose no threat, who are not taking away anything from the rest of us. The post continues. So right there, I kind of want to speak on a little bit of stuff. I noticed that when this happened, like Barack Obama, he spoke up about this. But I noticed, I'm like, well, Barack Obama, I haven't really heard you speak up about police brutality against, black people especially. Considering the fact that you identify as black, you married black, you had black kids, the most that we get from Barack Obama in regards to police brutality is, oh, if I had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon Martin. He probably would have looked like Trayvon Martin. That's the most we get, some like psychological thing to make us be like, oh, he sympathizes with us. That's basically what we get. You know. And I really find this to be like, I find that this really speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to a few things, right? Because I feel like ultimately we as the community, we as black folks, we got played for fools when it came to Barack Obama. We did. We, gave him our support. Like, he got the majority, like, pretty much nearly 100% of black people who voted support. He got black people support from voting as well as just in general, right? But I feel like Barack Obama kind of, to an extent, him and his administration and the Democratic Party sort of pretty much felt like they were entitled to that support, honestly. And you can kind of see in the way that he speaks to us, as a community. He does kind of feel like he can say certain things to us, speak to us in a certain way that other politicians might not really be comfortable speaking in, or might feel like, okay, let me not go there. I mean, has Barack Obama even tweeted Black Lives Matter? Two. He could put two, you know, but no, he's not going to do that. But he'll speak up for immigrants, primarily Latin American immigrants. I know that they're gonna, they probably want to try and push like an Asian immigrant out there, perhaps maybe even a black immigrant out there, to kind of gain support from other ethnic groups, like, oh, it's not just affecting the Latino community, and that's sort of a ploy too, like but for me, you know, I'm thinking, okay, Barack, you can speak up on this issue, and you're probably going to try and even frame it as like a human's rights issue. Perhaps, you might even try to frame it like that, like, oh, we can't be deporting these illegal, these undocumented immigrants, things like that. But I'm like, okay, but we can't be killing our citizens in the street and giving them on-site death sentences for things that don't require an on-site death sentence, are not punishable by an on-site death sentence, right? But this pretty much kind of speaks like, okay, it shows where your priority is at, because, and you notice it's not really just Barack Obama. A couple of these companies have been speaking up, these folks, these companies, these politicians, they've been speaking up on behalf of, the people who are implicated in the phasing out of DACA. Yeah, primarily Latin American folk, and probably some few other folks sprinkled in there too. And as well, the propaganda with that, as far as like, oh, this man, he helped out the victims of Hurricane Harvey. He was a paramedic, and he's going to be deported because of that, because of this being phased out, DACA being phased out, And it's like, really, like, you could do both, Barack Obama. You could do both. You could speak up on behalf of your people, your own people, and also this other group of people. I could accept that. But when it seems like when it comes to us, though, it's like we ain't getting, like, we didn't really get much other than like lectures, like low key lectures. Shoot, threw us a couple of crumbs, some little psychological crap about him and his imaginary son that looked like Trayvon Martin. That's what we get, And again, we got played, right? Because, I think us as a community, we did want that, as far as like a black president. And he was close enough, he was close enough. He wasn't like, he probably wasn't like our first choice for a president. Probably more so because of his background. But, we gave him the benefit of the doubt. Hey, it ultimately, what's been floating around lately, all skin folk ain't kin folk, And I think that applies to this situation, And I feel like Barack Obama during like, the first presidential campaign and the primaries and stuff like that, I felt like he was kind of playing the fence, but for black people, though. You know how biracial people are sometimes accused of like playing both sides, are kind of like jumping in and out of places when or communities when convenient. Because I felt like Barack Obama, he was kind of jumping into the white side when it was convenient. Like, oh, I have a white mom, and I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother said racist things in my presence. So, he was kind of playing that up, like, you know, to, his advantage at least. It seemed like he was playing it up, you know, to kind of get into the office. I guess that's a bit of a sidebar, but I kind of felt that was something that needed to be talked about. But let me read the rest of this article. Mr. Obama, who implemented Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, DACA, in 2012 said when he left office he would comment on Mr. Trump's actions at certain moments, quote unquote, certain moments where I think our core values may be at stake. So, again, Donald Trump has sort of, said things about police brutality and sort of even made jokes about it. I haven't seen you speak up then, you know. That's the thing, it's like it's really kind of just speaks to like what you really prioritize, honestly. And for him, he kind of just felt like, he kind of took us for granted, felt like he had us, which he did, honestly. So many black people came to his defense. Even black people who didn't even particularly care for him often came to his defense in certain situations, honestly. Just because he was black and he was a proxy at times, Um, let's see, next. Mr. Obama's executive order, sorry. Mr. Obama's executive order deferred deportation for people who came to the United States as undocumented during childhood, undocumented as children, right? The Trump administration announced Tuesday that it would rescind DACA after giving Congress 6 months to figure out how to replace it. So I'm not sure what they're going to actually do with that. I don't know if they're just going to take it away and not really replace. Okay, he's just going to give them 6 months. Like, if you don't got it, oh well. Y'all know how Trump is. Trump gives no fucks, all right? That's why they voted for it. That's part of the reason why they voted for him. Dreamers go knocking on doors ahead of Trump's DACA decision, all right? DACA allowed some 800,000 people to legally work and reside in the United States, kicking them, quote unquote, this is Barack Obama again, all right, quote unquote, kicking them out won't lower the unemployment rate or lighten anyone's taxes or raise anybody's wages, Mr. Obama wrote. And I think some people's criticism is that perhaps they may feel like, okay, this is a certain segment of society that perhaps shouldn't be receiving these particular benefits, and perhaps if we're going to give benefits or concentrate in whatever on a segment of society, perhaps it should be the citizens. I suppose that's the criticism, or one of the criticisms at least. What happens to dreamers if Trump rolls back DACA? Quote unquote, this is Barack Obama, I believe. To target these young people is wrong because they have done nothing wrong. It is self-defeating because they want to start new businesses, staff our labs, serve in our military, and otherwise contribute to the country we love. It is cruel. And it is cruel, he said. So, Barack Obama, even though he's saying a couple of things in this post now, so Barack Obama, he's speaking up. So we know he can speak up. Not when it comes to us, but when it comes to him, getting some support from the Latino community, because I'm guessing Barack Obama might not be done with politics or either, perhaps want to, continue to sort of, help out his party, the Democratic Party, perhaps. Right, next. The Post said that the Obama administration implemented DACA, quote unquote, because it made no sense to expel talented, driven, patriotic young people from the only country they know solely because of the actions of their parents. You know, I'm debating whether to give my opinion of this or not. You know, you know. But I will say this. I'll say this though. Okay, let's say if you're living in a place, perhaps an apartment, right? You're living in an apartment. You're behind on your rent. You don't pay your rent, and ultimately you get evicted, right? Your children are in your apartment too, right? You have children and they're with you living in an apartment. When you get evicted, you and your children have to leave. When you get evicted, like the people who evict you aren't like, oh, let me, care about and watch over your kids. It's not, they don't really work like that, right? And I'm not like a cruel person. I understand that perhaps there are some things or some situations here that, go deeper than just that analogy I gave, that, metaphor analogy that I'm saying. But sometimes I kind of feel like people feel entitled to some things. And also, again, let me bring it back to us, right? Because that's ultimately who I'm here for. No shade to other groups, but I'm down and I ride for my people, right? Black people. you know. But, that's ultimately where my allegiance goes, right? Not that I don't care about the plight of other people, but again, like when it comes to like my priorities and where I put my support, first come, first serve black folk. Well, I guess that's not what I should say. Like, black folks come first, right? Not like a first come, first serve, but, black folks come first. um, you know, but sometimes I do kind of get a sense of entitlement from, the people affected by DACA sometimes. And some of the, like, even in some of the signs they be holding up, I feel like, where does the entitlement come from? But I guess because of them being in America for so long, you be feeling entitled, I guess, perhaps. But, you know, hopefully the situation works out, Um, and also when situations like this happen, you know, I feel like sometimes we as black people are left alone on our own. It's like I would hesitate to give support to a cause like this just because I feel like that support wouldn't be given back to like black people when we going through things. Again, police brutality, right? A lot of people be like, oh, it doesn't affect me, so I don't care about it. Especially a lot of people from other groups. Really, to an extent, even people in the black community kind of sometimes have that attitude, right? Um, but I just, for me, that's kind of like something that's in my mind too. Again, I don't take pleasure in seeing people struggle. You see people down and out, down on their luck. I try not to really kick people when they're down because we all go through things. We can all, it could have been me, honestly. It could have been me. I could have been somebody in DACA or somebody dependent on DACA. It could have been. Thankfully, that's not my struggle, right? I have other struggles, And plus, I'm looking at my plate over here, my black plate over here. I'm like, I got a lot on my plate. I don't think I should be, just running to help out other folks, keeping it real, you know. Not that I don't, not that I, am a heartless, cruel person, but that's kind of like where I'm coming from. But Barack Obama, on the other hand, he's jumping at the chance. He's speaking up about this. I just wish he would speak up about police brutality against black bodies in the United States, or just in general. You could speak about it in general, but no, because that's a no. That's like something that you don't do, I guess, because you calling out the police, which is part of the white supremacist infrastructure of the United States. So no, you can't. Like, he knows better than to do that. And if he does do that, it's going to be very vague, not calling out anybody. He probably will call out us. He'd do that, but he won't call out the system. Nah, not for us. You know. So yeah, shifty mulattoes, shady, shifty, shiftless mulattoes. But to be fair, this probably could have happened with like a fully black president as well. To be honest, we got black coons, you know, as well. Next, quote unquote, this is about whether we are people who kick hopeful young strivers out of America or whether we treat them the way we want our own kids to be treated. It's about who we are as a people and who we want to be, Barack Obama wrote. Quote unquote, these dreamers are Americans in their hearts, in their minds, and in every single way but one. On paper, the Post says. And the article ends on this. Among the issues that would cause Mr. Obama to speak out, he strongly implied earlier, was a rescinding of DACA, or, as he put it, quote unquote, efforts to round up kids who have grown up here and who, and for all practical purposes, are American kids and send them someplace else when they love this country. All right. So that's the end of the article. And you can kind of get from that article and that piece that, he's speaking up on behalf of, people affected by DACA, primarily, seemingly, the face of this is Latino Americans, Latin American folk. But what about your own people, though, Barack Obama? We struggling out here because of police brutality, among other things. But that's like, honestly, we let a lot of things slide as a community when it came to Barack Obama. But honestly, if he had came through with the police brutality, I think we would have kind of like let him live. I think we would have. Like, okay, all right. I mean, we kind of knew he wasn't going to be able to go in and get us like reparations. Like, I wasn't expecting that from him. So if you I think the average black person probably wasn't expecting that either. Probably a few, but nah. um, but again, the police brutality, that's like a basic human right, just to be treated as like a human being and not be abused and killed just because you may be on the wrong place, And also, like, so many police officers have been able to just, walk and go on with their lives, Some of these police officers didn't even get fired, Some of these police officers probably got transferred or something at most, and they get to go on with their lives. I haven't heard Barack Obama speak anything about that, you know. So it kind of shows where his priorities are at. And he's kind of doing this as sort of a political move as well to gain favor with Latin American people, you know. So, to have some receipts showing that, I'm down for you guys. Look, I spoke up on behalf of you, right? And also, it's again, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just Barack Obama doing this. Like, again, there have been companies like Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook has spoken out about this, as well as politicians have spoken out about this, and companies have spoken out about this. But again, where are these companies and these politicians and Mark Zuckerberg when it comes to police brutality against black bodies, It's like when it comes to us and our struggles, and we struggling for human rights, which honestly is like a hallmark of the black experience in America, struggling to just be considered and have the what's the word? The rights and just the empathy and sympathy of a human being, you know, because like I think her name is Joy DeGraw or DeGraw. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name, but she had made a speech about this, and she said ultimately the worst thing to come from slavery, the slavery experience for Black people in the United States was dehumanization, and I really agree with that. I think that was the worst thing. Of course, there's like a lot of different things, right? But that ultimately is the worst thing, the dehumanization, and I think this continues to play out till today, the whole dehumanization of Black people. That's why I think people tend to not really care, or tend to have a lack of care when it comes to police brutality against Black people in this country. You know, honestly, if we replace the Black people being shot down in the streets with, say, white, teens and tweens, how about white teenage females? I really think the reaction would be a whole lot different. We would be hearing, tweens matter, or tweens lives matter too. And again, like the audacity also, sidebar here, but the audacity of them to co-opt our saying Black Lives Matter and put Blue Lives Matter, right? The audacity of them. After they try to shame us for saying Black Lives Matter, but they have the audacity to say Blue Lives Matter. And these are the same people saying all lives matter, but oh no, 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 oh Blue Lives Matter though, right? You know. But you notice when a Black cop messes up, you don't hear that Blue Lives Matter. You do not hear that. Just like when Black people gun rights be getting, um, Black people be getting their gun rights violated or whatnot. You don't be hearing NRA speaking. It's like we ain't really got no allies out here. Definitely not on a group basis, but no, we ain't nobody down for Black people but Black people. And even that sometimes is tricky and messy because there's some Black people in the community who don't really care about Black people. Like, honestly, when they got theirs, peace. And that's your problem. I'm right? Till they get their Negro wake up call, then they want to come running back to the community for defense and to defend them. Many times we often do defend some of these type of people, and then when they go right back to doing what they're doing, we get played, and I'm tired of getting played. But there's so much more I could say, but let me bring this video to a close. I really didn't mean to go on for this long, so my apologies for that. But thank you very much, for watching, especially if you got to the end. Thank you very much. Until the next video, you guys. Adios and goodbye for now.